I'm Butch Hollowell, and General Counsel of the Detroit Branch NAACP. And Lon, it's really great to have you on the show.
Well, thank you.
For those who haven't seen your face before, they're going to be seeing a lot more of you. Lon Johnson, you're the new chair of the Michigan Democratic Party. And a lot of people have been thinking that for a long time there needed to be a fresh voice, particularly those of us in the civil rights community committed to equal justice. We want to make sure that we continue to have those views heard. And you've come in with the great credentials. I know that you and I worked together with Vice President Gore, and I know that your wife is has worked in the Obama administration, and you have a great background of bringing people together using new technology, a lot of new ideas, and you're here with the NAACP today for our allies meeting. You got a great reception out there, and people really are pulling for you. One of the issues that came up was at the same time that you were being elected as chair of the Michigan Democratic Party, the Republican State Party was passing a plank on their platform saying that they wanted to get rid of the Electoral College and how we do it in Michigan, and they wanted to, in such a way that if President Obama, having won Michigan by over 500,000 votes, they would redo it so that Governor Romney would have gotten 9 votes and the president would have gotten 4. If that's not a voting rights issue, I've never seen one.
Yep.
This is the kind of thing that we've been seeing. Tell us what some of your plans are as it relates to the new Michigan Democratic Party.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Butch, and thanks for having me on the show, and it was terrific to be here today. Really what we were talking about is changing the party to really practice the politics of addition. At the end of the day, what politics is about is the practice of addition. When you're bringing new people in, you're bringing new ideas, you're bringing in new infrastructure, and when you do that, when you practice the addition, when you practice the opening up of government and of politics, we win. You know, the people win. You know, we in the Democratic Party have to really take a hard look at how we're fighting. We all know why we're fighting. When we don't fight, when we don't win, bad things happen. So I think, you know, ideologically, everyone here understands what's at stake, whether it's emergency manager or education cuts or jobs or, you know, disenfranchisement either at the poll or through the Electoral College. We know what's at stake. When we don't win, bad things happen. But we're about now at the party is setting about understanding how do we win. How do we take the best practices that we saw with President Obama and bring new people to the table and get them rowing all in the same direction so that we can start winning? And that's what we're doing.
Well, you said a mouthful there, and a lot of people have felt like, you know, well, I want to get more involved, and maybe this is the vehicle to do that, and your candidacy represents that. You also said something that was a big topic of the meeting, and that was the emergency manager legislation. You know, 260,000 residents signed petitions to get on the ballot to vote on this emergency manager law. You know, you know that we at the NAACP were a big part of the lawsuit to make sure that got onto the ballot. They didn't want to put it on the ballot. We won that case in the Supreme Court. It got on the ballot. Michiganians said we don't want an emergency manager, and then in this lame duck session, Republicans put into place, ignoring the will of the people, a new emergency manager law, and it looks like we're on the verge of one in the city of Detroit. We are certainly going to fight back at the NAACP,
yes. And
we're going to fight back in the courts, and in the streets, and in the court of public opinion, and in the legislature, and a lot of other angles. But what is your view on this emergency manager situation?
Our view at the party is that we expect a government that practices democracy. What we have here is nothing more but a straight hostile takeover. That's a business practice.
Yeah.
And we've seen this governor, we've seen what CEOs do, but we expect this governor to practice democracy. And that means partnering with our city. That means partnering with our cities. That means local control. And we're going to fight every step of the way on this issue. Like you said, the voters have already rejected it. We have many, allies in rural Michigan in particular that are very concerned about this. This is not just a Detroit issue.
Yes.
But that being said, we've got to win and make our case to the voters, and once again to Michigan, not only on persuading them that this is not the right way to go in Detroit and practice statewide, but also on the ballot box in November 2014. The only way that I know how to really defeat this is to go win in 2014 and replace this governor.
That's great. One of the other topics that came up was education, and the equal access to quality education has been at the bedrock of the NAACP from its very inception. And one of the things that we've been fighting so hard on is the resources to make sure that our children have what they need. And it seems that year after year what we're seeing is that they're cutting back on public education, and they're putting it into these charter schools, either directly through charter schools or by this new education authority. When we take a step back and think, well, wait a minute, they're spending $7,600 a year per child to get an education, and yet they're spending $34,000 to incarcerate them. It doesn't add up.
Nope.
We've come into into an alternate universe where we have our priorities completely upside down. And so we've been fighting on that and fighting for a smaller class size. What is the party's position as it relates to educational priorities?
Well, we saw this governor and this legislature make over $1 billion in cuts to public education. And this is the same mindset that we're seeing with the cities. They cut revenue and then point out and say, well, geez, why aren't they doing their job, right? Whether it's revenue sharing or tax structure in ways that don't benefit our city. And we're seeing that with education. They cut over $1 billion and then force the parents to make the rational choice to pull their children out of public education into for-profit entities. That is the wrong way to go. You would expect, this $7,000 versus $34,000. You expect a CEO governor to understand that, but we're not seeing that played out in the halls of power in Lansing, in the legislature, or in the governor's office. Again, we need a governor and a legislature that understands that we have two assets in Michigan: our people and our land, and we need policies that will invest in and protect those two assets. And we're not seeing that out of this governor.
We're not seeing that out of this governor. You're so right about that. And the other thing that we're very concerned about is the whole issue of safety in neighborhoods, and making sure that our streets are safe. We've seen continually, because of the cutbacks from Lansing and other places, less for police and fire. But I heard a lot of applause in that room today for supporting President Obama's position on the assault weapons ban, background checks for those who would want to purchase guns, and an elimination of those big clips that have, all those rounds in it that can do so much damage, and to destabilize and make our communities less safe. People have focused on the tragedy in Newtown, Connecticut, and the tragic circumstance of the young woman who had been in the inaugural parade that was shot by gang violence in Chicago. The First Lady went there. But we have a lot of those kinds of issues on the street right here in Detroit and Flint and some other areas. And so what is your view on, what do you think the prospects are of trying to get legislation that would make our neighborhoods safer?
Well, I think they're good. We believe, and so does our president, that we can protect the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms of our citizens, but at the same time work to protect people against gun violence. The president has laid out a number of proposals to do that. He's gone to the Congress, and they're now negotiating those items. We need to, though, support our president and support his initiatives and the courage that he's shown to do this by electing good people. to help support him. We've got 2 congressional races that we'll be paying, actually 3 that we'll be paying close attention to: Congressman Walberg, Congressman Benishek, and Congressman Rogers' seat, where we believe we can send more people to Congress to support our president's efforts to, again, to protect our Second Amendment rights, but at the same time make sure our residents are safe from gun violence. We can do both, and to think that, to say that that can't be done, flies in the face of reality in this new, in this new age of these mass shootings that we're seeing. We've got to do something. Doing nothing is not an option. People are dying because of our inaction and because of our partisanship in Congress, over this issue. We've got to work towards a compromise, and we're going to take our president's lead and work towards getting him more support and members of Congress to do so.
You're so right. You're so right. I'm glad to hear you say that. One last issue that we've been fighting very hard on, and that is, Michiganians pay the highest auto insurance rates in the United States, and we certainly pay a disproportionately high amount here in the city. And what we've seen is the governor is proposing new legislation that would cut the health care benefits that people have under no fault for some of these catastrophic injuries, such as closed head injuries and spinal cord injuries, and without reducing rates whatsoever. And I was at a meeting last night. It was of a number of legislators that were meeting over at Hartford Memorial Baptist Church, and this issue came up over and over and over again. And it's really strangling the economic growth of the city, because people have to pay so much in that. And so we're hoping that we're going to have members that are going to be supporting legislation that would actually get rates down, and we certainly hope that the party would be supportive of that as well.
Absolutely. There's an aggressive move by business and insurance interests to keep rates at where they're at and limit the benefits to citizens, and that is not the policy of the Democratic Party. And we'll be working with legislators to enact legislation that will bring down our rates and at the same time give the covered protection that's needed.
That's great. Well, Lon Johnson, we're really thrilled for you.
Terrific. Thank you.
That you're in that position, and we're looking forward to working with you on some of these critical issues. And that's all we have time for today.
And I look forward to working with you every single day, every step of the way, all the way through November 14th.
Appreciate you, and stay tuned.
Great. Thank you.